Welcome to the She Wins podcast. I'm your host, Heather Sumlin. And today I had the honor of meeting with and communicating with the lovely and fabulous Shelly Slater. Shelly was a journalist for 25 years. For the past 8 years, she has run her own communications consulting firm. And she taught us a lot about communication, a lot about defining moments in her life, more than one, and some of the best advice that she's ever been given. And I am so blessed to be able to call her a friend. Enjoy. Hey, Shelly, it's so good to have you on the podcast. Thanks for
Hey,
agreeing
hey.
to talk to me.
I have to first say that my sweet sixth grade child is reading your book.
Which book? The one my dad wrote?
Yeah, the one about mental toughness and the rifle shooting and all that stuff. Because
Ah, yeah.
entering middle school, we need some mental toughness. So yeah,
Yes. So with winning in mind to the rescue.
that's it. Uh-huh, exactly.
I love that. So tell
Mhm.
me a little bit of your kind of your backstory on, I know you were a journalist for a really long time. Now you run your own consulting firm. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got into journalism in the first place and why
Yeah,
communication is important to you?
for sure. I mean, I'm a little strange case that I knew at 13 years old exactly what I wanted to do. Then I went to school to do it, and then I actually did it. I just had it from the beginning, and I can really remember the day that it happened. I had a friend named Elizabeth Wagner who had some health issues, and she's since passed. And I remember being at her house, and the Today Show was on, and she's like, "Daddy, I want to do that." And that was back in the days of like Katie Couric, and she's like, "I want to be her." And the dad was like, "Gosh, honey, but it's hard. We don't have connections. You have to this, you have to that." And he just started going through all these hard things. And then she turned to him and said, "But somebody's going to get to do it." And I thought, I want that someone to be me. And so I went to University of Missouri, which is the best broadcast school in the country. It's not subjective. It's the only school in the country that has an FCC grandfathered school where you have it as an NBC affiliate and it's state funded. So I didn't go to class. I went to a TV station and I just made great bloopers every day. That's literally what we did. But learning by doing is better than learning by reading. So practicing out loud, thinking on your feet, and all that. So I did TV I went to West Virginia first, Kansas City, and then anchoring in Dallas by the time I was 26, which is a really big deal because it's a top 10 market. It's a
Mhm.
top 5 market now. And then basically when my son went to kindergarten, I realized my schedule would not work because I was going to work at 2:30 in the afternoon. He was coming home at 3 o'clock. So we would just miss each other. I'm like, what is the point in all this? So I was
Mhm.
doing all the evening newscasts. So I quit cold turkey pretty much and started my own communications firm. And I do consulting and storytelling. And it's just bananas the arms and legs this thing has grown.
That is so fun to be able to take everything that you've done for your career and then package it into something that you can sell to people that didn't know they needed it. As I
Well,
feel
and
like,
also, I didn't know I knew anything. Like when you're in the same environment your whole life, you think everyone has the same skills as you do. So when I left the newsroom where it is fast, you were thinking, you are storytelling, quick, quick, quick. What's the tease? You 5, 4. While they're telling you the information, they're going 5, 4, and I'm like, like I didn't realize that I had a different skill set until I got out into corporate America, and I was like, oh, maybe I do know something. And so it just went from there.
okay, so in your bio, you talk about some of the people that you have interviewed. And I mean, Jimmy Kimmel and President George W. Bush. I mean, people who definitely are famous celebrities.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so what do you do to prepare yourself mentally to go into an interview like that?
The strongest thing that you can do before you go into an interview with a famous person is to study them on YouTube and find things that they like to say often so that you are guiding a conversation in a direction you know will be successful. I am never guessing, are these first 3 questions a success? I'm never wondering. I always know where it's roughly going to head. And then I'm really good at the follow-up question from there. So I always overstudy, and then I always request 10 minutes of time with them before I'm actually on a stage where I'm not pre-interviewing. I actually don't believe in the pre-interview because then all of the magic happens pre-interview and then all the organic nature is gone. So we just talk about life. Oh, you've got kids. I mean, just the generic social da 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 da. And always 100% of the time, something will happen where like something will pop up on their phone and it's their wife who's like, oh, you forgot this and this. So I always take that human moment and open with it.
Mm.
Oh, we were just backstage, and like one of them was Peyton Manning, and his wife was blowing him up about not signing the kids up for like YMCA or something. And he's like, "Gosh," and I'm like, "What's going on?" He's like, "My wife, these one, you know." So it was an easy icebreaker. Like, hey, they're just like us, just like the U.S. Weekly says, and that usually breaks the ice pretty fast.
Well, and that's something that I live by too, is that anybody in a room, they're more like you than they're not like you.
Hmm.
And they put their pants on one leg at a time. Doesn't matter what
Yeah,
their socioeconomic status is or, how many followers they have on whatever profile. I mean, they're also human. So
yeah,
some of
yeah,
this.
and they want to look good in front of everybody as well.
Mhm.
And so I also behind the scenes will be like, hey, this is a safe place. I'm not going to ask you about X or Y or Z. I
Mhm.
know you don't want that. So you're safe. No, I'm no where even if you feel me wandering around, I'm not headed into this land of blank. Like with Amal Clooney, I was like, I will not ask about George. Your team has told me that is off limits. I want you to know I'm really going to respect that. So even if I'm over here talking about love, I'm still not going to bridge it to George Clooney. You can, but I won't ask about him.
Oh, I love.
Oh, thank you. You're my BFF. Thank you. Thank you. Everybody only wants to talk about him, but I'm here about my work. You're like, okay, see, once they feel safe, then they will perform for you.
So what do you do with your corporate clients? Like, tell me a
What do
pitch
I actually do?
just
Yeah.
to me. What do
Okay. So, for example, if you were trying to even sell Sumlin Solutions, like I couldn't necessarily tell what Sumlin Solutions is from the title, right? So instead of like people struggle to say how they're different. So, like all lawyers do the same thing, all doctors, of different types do the same. There are a lot of people that do a lot of the same things. You run a hamburger joint. Well, there are 12 hamburger joints nearby. Why yours? And so I help people sizzle down what is their differentiator in 6 words or less on a fifth grade language, because that's the language we talk on.
yeah.
The news is on a third to fifth grade language. And I help them then take that, put it into storytelling form. We might then build out the presentations. Then we might do videos. Then we might do social media. Then I might train the team on exactly how to deliver that message. So it's interesting because I would say almost like 75% of my clients now are commercial real estate or private equity. How do you win big bucks? You can't come in and list the facts of things that you do because guess what? The other commercial real estate guy also does that too. So,
Mhm.
what is the story you're going to tell me? And stories freak people out. They're not 5 minutes long, they're 30-second anecdotes that you casually weave through a conversation. It's not beginning, middle, and end, climax, Elsa and Anna holding hands. It's not it. And so people mistake what a story is. It's almost like little proof points instead of you being like, we have a strong culture. I'm not going to believe you.
Mhm.
What's the story?
Right.
We're hard workers, says everybody. What's the story? So I
Give me,
push people to figure out what that is.
yeah, the short soundbite proof that that hardworking comment is true.
Yeah, and something with emotion and questions in it, because people talk with questions, but then when they present, they quit asking questions. There are just like so many things. We have more than 25 different levers because basically we know that you're not all the same. So what works for you may not work for somebody else. And you know that in what you do. No two people are the same. There's some certain things you've got to do in order to be successful. Then outside of that lane, it's like, okay, you're quirky. Let's play off of that. Don't hide being quirky. Let's highlight it. You know,
Right.
you are like a detailed Mensa human being. Like we almost need to like make fun of you for that so that we're highlighting all, this differential. 'Cause most people aren't like you like that. That's interesting. Instead of hiding it, we highlight it.
I love that. I just wrote it down. I'm like, don't hide, highlight.
Don't hide, highlight. Yes.
Love it. I'm just visualizing highlighters and all of the ways I can highlight
For
my.
real.
I love.
Yeah.
So tell
Mhm.
me, what's been a defining moment in your life? It can be about your journey in journalism or elsewhere.
Oh my gosh, there's so many. I would say, I mean, I can do personal, I can do professional. I would say, professionally, I had a mentor who was incredible, and I could call her and just really tell her what was up. She also helped me get my job at Channel 8 in Dallas. And one day I was just conflicted as all hell because it's like I'd finally reached this point where now I'm sitting on the main desk. I'm actually making the good money. You get to meet cool people, do all these cool things. And just the second that I reached it, I was like, now this doesn't work in my life.
Mhm.
And she just said to me, Shelly, on your deathbed, no one's going to turn to you and say that breaking news you did back in 2024 was incredible. Your family and friends are going to be around the room and they're going to be telling stories of you being there for them. So it made it easier for me to leave. And she had always pumped into me to go do news and love it, but do it for the right reasons. I think a lot of people do it because they can't go, they're not an actor, but they want to be on TV. So they do it for that reason versus like actually loving journalism, meeting people and telling stories and all this kind of stuff. She's like, as long as you're loving it, it'll be what you do. It's not exactly who you are. Because there are a lot of people that like their ego grows so large on television that they need that pumping into them all the time to be okay. But I never needed that. As long as I was telling people's stories because I loved it, I didn't have to be on camera. So, I mean, I'm telling more stories than ever, and I'm actually on camera now, oddly, all of the time. I have a studio, and companies will say, like, I have a company right now with 25,000 employees. So, like, well, how are we going to train all 25,000? I'm like, well, I'm going to do some really awesome videos. Let's do this because it's not hard for me to talk on a camera. So then I start producing training videos. And I don't have to write it all. I like know what I can just do it. It doesn't take me a lot of time. I shouldn't say that, but it's true.
Well, it's the skill set that you built for so many years, and then you're just channeling a different lane,
Mhm. Mhm. For sure.
providing a service. I love that.
Yeah.
My husband the other day, I said, "Oh, I'm going to interview Shelly Slater," and he's like, "Really?" And I'm like,
Please.
He's like, "I remember seeing her on the news like all the time." I said, "Yes, actually, true." And
Correct. You are correct.
that's a really cool. And it was actually when it wasn't even for the podcast. It was when I came and I spoke at the Slate for your
Yes.
mom's event where I did the
Yes.
conversation with you about moms with competitive kids. The title came, and that was so much fun. And I was telling Rich, I was like, that you invited me and was going to go do it. And he's like, "Well, she's the real deal." And I'm like, "Okay."
Oh, that's sweet. That's sweet. I don't know if I'm the real deal. I just don't really have enough energy to have a filter to be anything but exactly. Okay, that actually is the next defining moment. And I think this fits right into the bucket of like the land that you talk about. I would say that my career took off, and I can literally remember it because I had been bruised so badly. Because, I mean, imagine you're amazing, you stink. You're beautiful, I hate your dress. Where'd
Mhm.
you get your dress? I hate your dress. Why are you so fat pregnant? I mean, can I literally I got text like, can I smell the bottoms of your feet? I mean, people are weird.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I kept them all because they're just fascinating. I had a file of weird emails.
You write a book.
But I reached a point and it was on my way from West Virginia to Kansas City. And it was like I started noticing it's kind of when Twitter really started. And somebody would say something nice, and then 30 seconds later, somebody would criticize the very thing that somebody just was nice about. And I would be like up and down, living this roller coaster of emotion. Like, I'm amazing. I'm not amazing. I'm not. Blah, blah, blah. And then finally, I was like, this is happening so much that I was like, you know what? Today's the day. I don't listen to my own PR. So when somebody says you're the most incredible, blah, 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 ever, I'm like, yeah, right. And then when they're like, you stink, get off the news. Why are you so fat pregnant? I'm also like, yeah, right. And I just quit with the noise on both sides. And I just went with me. And I think when you get there, that's when it all happens.
Yeah, the lane that I'm in, I work a lot in pageantry, and there's a lot of that. You'll hear compliments and then derogatory.
So, yeah,
It
for
just
sure.
back and forth. So I get that's very helpful, the roller coaster that you're on. So you just say, "Yeah, right," to everybody.
Right. To all of it.
So one of the things that I ask everyone is, how do you define winning? Because I'm all about she wins, right? But I think winning is different for everyone. So what's your definition?
I think winning is when you feel your battery charged and not depleted. Period. The end. Like, does that make you happy and charge your battery? Then you've won. If being around your kids charges you, sometimes, of course, it's going to deplete you, but in general, is it charging you, well, then this is time well spent. If I go and do a really big training and I feel energized after it, even though I'm tired, it doesn't mean I'm not tired. But if I'm like, wow, I learned, they were engaged, that guy had such good questions. I've never been asked that before. That was like an adrenaline. I feel as long as I feel charged, then I think I'm winning.
What's a solution that you've had to come up with along the way in order to win?
To survive, is to remember that every day you have a choice for everything. You're never stuck.
Mm.
Every day, you are choosing to call that friend that may be rude to you or nice to you. You are choosing to say yes to a boss who's good or bad, or no to a boss who's good. You're making choices. And I just see people like, what's the cliche where it's like, if you don't change something, it's insanity if you're getting the same result. But I see a lot of people do that, and I don't do that. I really feel like that is a cycle that a lot of people get in. I'm very thoughtful in the choices that I make, knowing that if it's not going well today, I can always change it tomorrow. And I don't think that means you want like some knee-jerk reaction, but it makes you always feel like, even when I'm doing work-life balance, I'm like, well, today I've chosen my children. So they are my choice today, and I'm going to see them. You know who's not going to get the love? These clients. And then there are other days when like I am choosing to go learn and have like the excitement of my brain firing, and I'm choosing to be with all these clients. And so no, I'm not running all these carpools. I'm not choosing the children today. I don't try to feel like I have to have it all at the same time because that's impossible. So I think of it in little seasons, or I think of it day to day, but I'm always winning because I'm always making my choices.
So what's a choice that you made today? To talk to me out.
I'll tell you, whew, boy, you're calling me on a good day. Today, I didn't realize I had cafeteria duty. Uh, I got like the text reminder from the school. Um, and I was like, oh my gosh, how did I not put this on the calendar? It's like week one, and I only have to do this like 10 times. So I made the choice to go through, and I need to be there for my children. So I went through and I told all my clients that I have something that I am obligated to, that I double booked you, and I'm so sorry, we'll have to reschedule. So I canceled all of that. And then I'm glad because guess what? I saw things in the cafeteria that need to be discussed. I
Mm.
talked to the principal. There are things that need to be discussed. Like I learned a lot of information in my 4 hours at the school that's actually going to make a stronger impact on my family than helping that one client with something that can wait to tomorrow.
Well, and I think it's also realizing what's more important, where the priorities are. Because if you make an obligation, you say, I am going to do this, you follow through. You
Yeah.
something else on the calendar, you make sure you're making those choices wisely. I enjoy I enjoy that kind of discussion because I think a lot of people just pile more and more and more on their plate.
Yes. So there's a book called Essentialism that I love. And have you read that one?
No,
Oh,
it's
I
so
am not a self-help book reader. I really need to become one, but I'm not. But I've read Essentialism. It is the best book ever. And so what I do at the beginning of the school year, because my staff will just fill my schedule. They know I leave at this time to go get the kids. And they know I come in at this time, but it's like, do what you want with the rest. But I go and I put in breaks now, 25 minutes, and it just says margin, an hour, margin. So where I can call a girlfriend, I can check in with the school, I can have lunch with a friend, I can call my mom. Because if you don't put that stuff on your calendar from the beginning, it will fill with things that are probably less important than the things that matter to you. I love this saying that if you don't shape the world around you, it will shape you. Like, that's the truth. The world will fill your to-do list. And I find to-do lists lovely, but also awful. And as long as I feel like I'm winning in the way and charging my battery enough so that when I'm doing these other to-dos that deplete me, that aren't winning, but are necessities, at least I'm at the end of the day coming out like even. You know what I'm saying?
I
As
used to
best I can.
I used to do hour-long consults when I'd work with individuals. I do a full hour. And then I'd wind up booking myself like back to back to back to back. And so when I started my own company, I'm like, I'm not doing that to myself. So now it's all online. There's a 15-minute buffer and I do 45 minutes. So there's a 15-minute buffer. So no matter what, I'm getting myself 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So, walk around, grab a snack, hit the bathroom, like whatever it is.
Yeah.
Is if I go back to back to back and then I'll I need to get better at slicing in that lunch break because sometimes I forget to throw that in there. But
Mhm.
for real, I can't go all day back to back to back and be me because by
Yeah,
the end of the day, you lose a sense of yourself, I feel like.
you're so tired at the end of the day. It's unbelievable. Yeah, I definitely would admit that on the days that I haven't put margin, I am 100% back to back to back from 8 a.m. to 2:30. There is no lunch break. There is no restroom break. I will have to say to a client, hey, I've got to bounce 5 early. Hey, good to see you. I need to take notes on what we just did, so I'll see you. But really, I just need to go to the bathroom.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, but that is unhealthy day after day after day. But we'll do it to ourselves,
We will. And it's also realizing that someone else's emergency is not your priority.
right?
And sometimes like someone might wait until the last minute to try to schedule with me. And then my heart is like, oh, I need to get them. Sometimes I can, but sometimes I really shouldn't because that's not what's in my best interest for my well-being. And so
Yeah.
it's choosing yourself is really hard sometimes when you're in a service business.
But interestingly enough, me too, ditto. I echo all of that. However, what I have noticed over the last, I've been gone 8 years, I've been doing my consulting thing for 8 years, is that some of the most like successful people that I work with, and they are successful people, um, I'll be like, okay, well, what about this time? And they're like, sorry, I can't. That's when I see my grandson, or sorry. And I'm watching people who, a lot of these are men who are in their 60s and 70s, and I'm watching the way that they are prioritizing their life because they've kind of already made it. Not kind of, they've made it. They're trying to help the team to like kind of move into the next wave. And you're like watching how they're prioritizing life, and they have no problem saying, can't do it that day, or I'm having to cancel on you because. And I'm like, why are they so good with this? And I am sitting here wondering, does he not think I'm dedicated because I can't do this at 4:30 because of my kids? Now I just say, look, I pick up my kids at 3:30. This is what happens. I'm not available. If you really need me, we can do 9 o'clock at night.
It's like I stopped working Sundays because I used to work Sundays if somebody needed it. And I'm like, no, I need to go to church. I need to be with my family.
Yeah.
I'm just on a very, very, very rare occasion. I may, but it's not likely. And I don't apologize for it. It's
Yeah,
just
exactly.
but it is what it is. So what's
Hmm.
a piece of advice that you've been given that you feel like has made a big impact on you?
Oh, Lord. A piece of advice that I have been given, well, on lots of things. I would say that it's not about you. It's a great piece of advice because it's not. It's always about the other person. My mom told me growing up every day, even though it got really annoying because she would say it every day, she would say, have a great day, check over your paper, and make a new friend. She said it every day for 18 years. I'd shut the, van door to the green Aerostar back in the 80s. She's listening to Journey in the car, and she would say it every time. When I start mocking her, by the time I was in eighth grade, I was like, I'm gonna make a good friend. But through osmosis, like I took that in, and I was in a big enough school because I graduated with almost 2,000 in my class. So I was able to meet somebody new every day, and I did try, and I tried to learn 5 things about them, and I would even write those 5 things down because I knew I wouldn't be able to remember them. So if I didn't see them for 2 weeks, because my high school was like a college campus, I could turn around and be like, oh my gosh, Heather, hey, Shelly, good to see you. How are you doing on that back to back? Have you given yourself some margin? And then you're almost like, whoa, I don't know what to do with that. And it's almost like takes people back, but then they'll never forget you after that because you remember them because it's not about you. And I made a friend every day. And in college, I made a friend every single day. I have the book, The 5 Things About Every Person. There were days on Labor Day because I was in Mizzou. My parents would not fly me home because they are bean counters. And I'd be all alone because everybody would go to Lake of the Ozarks and Lake of the this and Lake of the that. And Shelly was Lake of the dorm. And I would like literally walk around the Mizzou campus looking for somebody to meet because I wanted to achieve that goal. And so I did every year, freshman year, I met a new person.
I feel like that probably helped you in your work.
For sure. But I didn't even know what I was doing. I wasn't like doing it to like do work well. I was just like, I'm the only person from Texas. I know no one. Uh, I'm alone. I'm going to meet people. I'm going to take that same advice and put it into play. And honestly, I mean, it made a huge difference.
I think that's valuable advice to all these people that are starting college or starting high school. It's the beginning of the school year. What a great thing to do. Meet somebody new, learn 5 things about them, write it down, try to remember it.
That, and it's actually pretty hard. The first month or two, you're going to just cruise. Man, month eight, month nine, you have to be insanely intentional to walk a different direction,
Mhm.
not sit at the same table, not go to the same library, like see it all. So it really took intentionality to do that. But yeah, people love hearing about themselves.
Oh, they do. So
Yeah.
they love to talk about themselves. So, speaking of which, when you are trying to find new clients, things like that, so that you can teach them how they can talk about their business,
Mhm.
do they find you? How can people find you if they want to hire you?
Oh, you're very sweet. I mean, just Shelly, trying to even think what my website is. It's shellyslater.com, super complicated. It's been all word of mouth. I haven't done any marketing. It's all been word of mouth. I find that most people, I'm like, I don't even know if we're brilliant. I just think that we follow through. I think most people don't follow through on anything. And so people know they can count on us to do what we said we were going to do in the time frame we said we are going to do it. And I think that might be sadly 80% of the battle. Because then, oh, they're like, wow, you really took that task on. Well, if you can do that, can you do this? And then things start spreading out of your zone, but there's storytelling to all of it. So then sometimes I find myself in a situation with all these like really brilliant MBA people, and they're looking to me to tell them what to say. And I'm thinking, how in the world are we here? Which goes to show that kids should put the stupid phone down
Mhm.
because my entire success has nothing to do. I mean, it's not that I'm not bright and I can't follow along. I mean, I got that part, but I'm not like Mensa math. I'm not. And I'm around private equity people who are crunching numbers and telling me their business plans all day. And I'm like, cool, good for you. But what's the point? Like,
Mhm.
it's because I can talk and think on my feet. And I don't have an MBA. I have an MBA at Channel 8 of thinking on my feet. It's just, I think the phone thing is what's happening is companies are now calling us too. And they're like, hi, this younger generation cannot communicate at all. Zero, zilch, nada. Or there's a huge gap between the boomers and the Gen Zers. They can't seem to figure out how to communicate. Or so and so's bright, but he can't close a deal. I don't think he talks to a lot of people. And so here we are being brought in to do some very basic, rudimentary things with people to explain here's how you small talk, here's how you keep a conversation going. Here are 5 interesting questions to have in your back pocket at all times. What are your 5 interesting stories? So when somebody says, what's new? You don't say, oh, same old, nothing really new. Kids are good. I mean, how boring is that?
Yes.
But that's what we all do.
So what I want to do is pick your brain more on my Patreon channel for my members. And I want to tackle what you just started talking about is how do we get this younger generation to care about communication and honing some of those skills? And what are some of those questions that you can ask people or even ask yourself? So thank you so much for Shelly for joining. Like this if you do, share it with a friend. I appreciate you so much.
Of course. Thanks for having me.